Yet even now, declares the Lord, return to me with all of your heart, and with fasting and weeping and mourning, and rend your heart and not your garments. Now return to the Lord your God, for he is gracious and compassionate, slow to anger, abounding in loving kindness. Saints, I told you that we were going on with Revelation chapter 13 and that we'd be coming to the mark of the beast. And I wanted to share some very important things that he showed me in a revelation about the Antichrist, his number, and his name. But something happened last night. And I wanted to share that with you and how now I have to go where the Lord is leading me. He's taking me somewhere else, but it unexpectedly had to do with Revelation chapter 13 and the Antichrist. And let's read this in Joel also. And it will come about after this, after we return to him, after we repent, after we call upon his name, after we're preparing the way of the Lord, after we're the voice of one crying in the wilderness. And it says it will come about after this, that I will pour out my spirit on all mankind, and your sons and your daughters will prophesy. Your old men will dream dreams. Your young men will see visions. As I was going to sleep, I was laying in my bed, and all of a sudden, I don't know if I was asleep, dreaming this, or if it was a vision. I'm just telling you this, and you can make up your own mind on these things. But as I was laying there, all of a sudden, I could see Revelation chapter 13 open. And it was being read. And suddenly, I was saying to myself, I don't know that. I don't know what you're talking about. But as I actually got up, I said, I know now what I didn't know. And I knew that it was in Daniel, but I didn't even know where. So I turned to the book of Daniel. And I started reading, knowing from chapter 7 on has a lot to do with the Antichrist. So I read chapter 7. I started in Daniel chapter 7, verse 1. It says, in the first year of Belshazzar, king of Babylon, Daniel saw a dream and a vision in his mind as he lay on his bed. Then he wrote the dream down and related the following summary of it. And I thought, Lord, what is this? What is this that I know now? And I knew then that it had to do with Daniel chapter 7 again, and in verse 25. But let's start where we are at in the book of Revelations, because we're in chapter 13, and in Daniel 7, starting in 23, verse 23, he said, the fourth beast will be a fourth kingdom on the earth, which will be different from all the other kingdoms, and it will devour the whole earth and tread it down and crush it. As for the 10 horns, out of this kingdom, 10 kings will arise, and another will arise after them, and he will be different from the previous ones and will subdue 3 kings. This has so much to do with the beast and the kingdom of the beast and the coming of the Antichrist in Revelation chapter 13. But in my dream, I said, I don't know that. But when I woke up or quit dreaming or whatever, I said, I know now. But I didn't even know what I know. But I know I had to go to Daniel. And I'm in Daniel, continuing in Daniel 7:25, and speaking of this beast. And he will speak out against the Most High, and will wear down the saints of the Highest One. And he will intend to make alterations in times and in laws. And that was the thing I knew, that I had never paid attention before. For that dream had told me that I would know this, and I didn't know this. I paid no attention to it. I didn't even know what this was coming to until I read this. And he will intend to make alterations in times and in law. And what I had known once I woke up from this dream was that as the Antichrist comes, it has to do, well, he will make these alterations in time. The Hebrew people had their time based on, their years based upon the time of the coming of man, going back to Adam and Eve. The Greeks based their time, they had time, and it was based upon different areas and different things, but they had their times. The Romans made their time and judged time, and the world under the Roman Empire went with the Roman time. But after hundreds of years, a monk came up with the time that we now live in and use, and it now being the year 2022. And he based upon the birth of Christ. It turns out he was off by a number of years, but that's what it was based upon. Our years that we go by now, which is 2022, that the world goes by, is based upon that monk's understanding of when Christ was born. It was off, but it was close. But it says here of this beast, and he will intend to make alterations in times and in law. And the thing I knew when I woke up that I never knew or looked into or studied at all, the only thing I've ever heard about this is people would say, we'll find out when we get there what he does, because we don't know what that means. But what I knew after waking up from this dream was that the Antichrist will want to change time again. When he enters the temple and declares that he is God, he will want to change time again and start the time with this new kingdom that's rising up to bring stability to the earth after the fall of Babylon and the fall of world governments and structures. The beast will rise up to repair things, to fix things, to make the world better. That's why it'll be so deceitful. And the Antichrist is going to eventually come out of that kingdom and go to Israel in that temple they're building and declare that he is God. We know that. And what he's talking about here, what the word is talking about, that he will want to make alterations in time. He's going to want his own time, and he's going to declare that he's God. And this kingdom of the beast is now starting a new worldwide kingdom to bring new structure and power to the world. And the Antichrist, when he enters the temple and declares that he is God, he will want to start his own time, his own calendar. And he will want to change law, the laws of God and the laws of man. Because as you see later in chapter 13 of book of Revelations, you will not be able to buy, sell, or carry on in life without his mark, because he will change the law. The kingdom of the beast will be the law, and their authority will rise above all authority and all people. And the Antichrist will declare a new time and the beginning of time that they will measure the years by, beginning at the time that the Antichrist enters and says that he is God, to give power and authority and glory to the beast and the kingdom of the beast as they rule the earth in the power of Satan at the downfall of Babylon. And as I was reading to you there, saints, that's what the Lord is saying. That's what he's telling us. We live in a wilderness area, and we don't want nothing. We're not trying to study these things and come up with our own interpretation. We're not going to some college or some seminar. The Holy Spirit just started moving upon my wife and I, and it's been going on almost all of this year, and it's almost continuous. And if you see my message about the vision, the open vision we had, where my wife could see him, but she couldn't hear him. And I could hear him, but I couldn't see him. He was whispering in my ear, and in that message I tell you what he said. But later he showed us what you heard, and this is in the Word, what you heard whispered in your ear, shout it from the rooftops. And all we're trying to do is share what he's telling us. We're not trying to give you some strange things to follow me. You can't follow me. I live so far in the woods, it's an hour to the nearest small town. It's over 2.5 hours to the nearest big town city. We don't want nothing. We don't want your money. We ain't building anything on this earth. We're the voices of one crying in the wilderness. Make straight the way of the Lord. As it said, even now, declares the Lord, return to me, those of you that have gotten astray, those of you who have fallen into Babylon and Egypt and loved the things of the world. That's what he's saying to you. That's what he's saying to me. That's what he said to me and my wife, and we straightened up. We made his path straight, and he has not stopped pouring his Spirit out upon us or speaking to us since that day. Even now, declares the Lord, return to me with all your heart, and with fasting and weeping and mourning, and rend your heart, not your garments. Now return to the Lord your God, for he is gracious and compassionate, slow to anger, abounding in loving kindness. And then in that other one in Joel there, these are in Joel 2, and this is Joel 2:28. And after these things, and it will come about after this, that I will pour out my Spirit upon all mankind, and your sons and your daughters will prophesy, and your old men, I'm nearly 70, I had that dream, I'm only sharing it with you, and your old men will dream dreams, your young men will see visions. And what does it say after that? Verse 29, and even on the male and female servants, I will pour out my Spirit in those days. This is the last days. This will be mainly which will be poured out on the church of Laodicea as she goes into the tribulation. Because the church of Philadelphia, the first fruits will be taken. The pre-tribulation rapture will happen with those waiting, watching, prepared. But those that don't have their lights lit, that are not waiting, they love Babylon, they love Egypt, They'll go into the tribulation to be prepared for the coming of the Lord. And at that point, he will pour his Spirit out upon them like the church has never seen, other than the very early church. And what does it say after that? In verse 30, and I will display wonders in the sky and on the earth. These now is going to be talking about what I've been telling you about, which is in my messages on the book of Revelation. That Babylon will fall in 1 hour of 1 day as an asteroid hits and brings Babylon down in 1 hour of 1 day. And then the world will go into turmoil and chaos. And the kingdom of the beast will rise up to try to replace that government, to replace that military, to replace that money and commerce. It will rise up to fix things. And if it was possible, even the elect would be deceived. And what does it say going on about this fall of Babylon? This is what this is about. Verse 30, and I will display wonders in the sky and on the earth, blood, fire, columns of smoke. The sun will be turned into darkness, the moon into blood. Listen here, saints, before the great and awesome day of the Lord. This asteroid hitting will cause these things. It will cause the downfall of Babylon, that world government that controls the world, the military, the money, the power, the might will fall in 1 hour of 1 day. Satan will fall to earth as the pre-tribulation saints are raptured. Satan will fall to earth, and the kingdom of the beast will rise up, saying they are doing good, to bring people together, to stop the chaos that will happen on the earth as money falls, militaries fall. And he will say, you need to follow him, or he will have you slain, especially the Christians. And the time of the Gentiles will be over around the middle of the tribulation and the rapture of the two witnesses. When the two witnesses are caught up, then or right around then, the Gentile church, the church of Laodicea that went into the tribulation, will have made herself ready, will have put on her garments, will have been washed in the latter-day rain. And then the Antichrist will go into the temple that's been built or will be built in Israel, declare that he is God. The Jews as a people will turn against him. They will turn to the Messiah, the true Messiah, because of the preaching, the death, the resurrection, and the rapture of the two witnesses. And as Israel turns to the Messiah, the true and living God, the Antichrist will become enraged. And that, in the last half of the tribulation, will start the Great Tribulation. And it'll be the Great Tribulation because the Antichrist will seek out and destroy the Israelis because they are turning to the living God and rejecting him. And for most of that 3.5 years, he will pursue them, destroy them, and kill them until the coming of the glory of the Lord, as we return with him to rule and reign with him throughout eternity.